All right, we'll get started. I'm Dr. Lindberg. I'm assistant professor in the Nutrition Exercise Physiology Department, and I'm coordinating with the assistance of Dr. Parks this seminar series this semester. I'm really excited to introduce our first week. We have Dr. Upendran from the University of Missouri. And part of what we really want to do this semester in seminar is not only have science-based talks, but also some career-based talks. And I think a lot of you are going to really enjoy her presentation today. So Dr. Upendran is the director of Biomedical Innovation, and she's the lead scientist in our MU ICAPS, which is our MU Institute of Clinical and Translational Sciences. She leads the research program focused on clinical translation of drug delivery and biomedical devices. Specifically, the program's focused on three main aspects: designing and validating of quality controls for IND submission, developing small and large animal models for monitoring treatment efficacy, and conducting clinical studies for evaluating sensors and biomedical devices. So this really truly is clinical and translational, and I think it really fits in with what we do as a department. On our education front, she leads the Life Sciences Innovation and Entrepreneurship Graduate Certificate Program, both in-class and online programs, which I think a lot of you might be really interested in. This program is really a truly interdisciplinary, as it attracts students regularly from all disciplines, including major companies such as Pfizer and students from the journalism school. She mentors undergraduate, graduate students, postdoctoral fellows, and in addition provides research opportunities to high school students in translational medicine. So it's really great that we get to listen from her today about how to turn a lab discovery into a business product. So thank you so much, Dr. Upendran, and I'll let you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lindberg, for that kind introduction. I hope everyone is able to see my screen. Lindberg, can you please confirm me on that? And I can go ahead and start on it. Okay.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you again. I want to tell you about first thing, like how I got interested into this whole product development. I'm a chemist by training, and after completing my postdoctoral fellowship, again in chemistry, I had an opportunity to join hands with some friends and family to begin a startup company, a university spin-off, and thereby I ventured into product development. I always had an inclination to work in industry. I knew product development in an industry goes in different phases. However, when I was initiated in the startup as director of research, little did I recognize that it's a sequential process. By the time I could feel the water, I was thrown at the deep end and I had to swim through it. Here I was, who wanted to work in the industry and be part of product development, was interested with a job to be a source. During that time, I became interested in regulatory science and the regulatory science of how to get the products for market approval. So I educated and learned about and got certified in regulatory affairs for both drugs and devices. During my time in the company, I completed successfully 2 phase 1 and phase 2 grant proposals. And that's how I learned the art of product development, being closely associated with the university. So let's go to this topic, like turning lab discovery into a business product. I'm basically a researcher, and I'm happy to explore ideas by performing detailed research and investigations on areas that interest me. Once I get my results, I publish the paper, and I get excited because I have published in high impact journals. Can I get complacent with that? Should I limit myself with that? That was a question I asked myself. So how about if the method or the ideas that I have explored can be used to make something, that something is a product that will benefit society, and how wonderful it will be, and what would be the satisfaction that would both giving back the same product or the research that I do to the society, something profitable to yourself. that happiness is different. And you will realize it when you do it. So that's kind of a journey that I'm going to share with you, like how to do this lab discovery into business product. In the next 45 minutes, I would like to give you a brief outline. This is the brief outline about my talk. I would like to explain you the roadmap for developing academic discoveries to the product. It involves 6 key steps for commercialization, and also there is funding opportunities that you have to look for to get into commercializations. I'm going to discuss about all these 3 points in the first part. And the second part, I'm going to explain you about the teaching program that is in MU, the Life Sciences Innovation and Entrepreneurship Certificate Program that educates students and some of the researchers to teach about the process of biomedical innovation. This is a pretty rudimentary slide, but I just want each one of you to think about it. All of us in this room right now will be using sanitizer. There's none that go without a sanitizer right now. What's the main ingredient that's present in the sanitizer? All of you know about it. It's just ethanol. And there is some percentage of ethanol that has to be present in the sanitizer to make it as a disinfectant. Ethanol is the disinfectant, it's the active ingredient. But to make it as a sanitizer from ethanol, it requires something that needs to be added additionally. What is that something, that ingredient that helps it to make it as a sanitizer? Ethanol cannot be directly used on the skin as a sanitizer. You need something to be added to it. Identification that ethanol can act as a disinfectant is a discovery, while making ethanol as a sanitizer with a brand name added to it is a product. So that's a basic difference between the discovery and the product. Similarly, when you identify a molecule in a laboratory that can have an inhibitory action, it's an idea, that's a discovery. However, to make it in a way that a clinician can prescribe it to the patient so that he can use it for curing for some disease, it's called a drug. And when it is commercialized, it has a valuable name to that, and it has a value to that. How can you make innovation? How can you make that as a product? So remember, I did talk about discovery. Discovery is the basic idea. However, if you combine your idea by means of some process, design and develop, and transform it to something better, that results in a product. So remember, the new methods that you use is called the innovation, by means which you form the product. So when you combine your initial discovery, transform it by means of engineering, by new ways, it results in the product. In terms of research language, let me explain you. So when you do basic research, convert it into a translational research, add some business factor to that, it becomes a solution to solve real world problems in the form of a product. Another way of looking at innovation is a combination of invention and commercialization. Innovation is nothing but innovation is, as I said, it's a combination of invention and commercialization. However, invention, what is invention? Invention is a unique or a novel idea that has unproven value, discovered through series of experiments based on hypothesis and several risks and failure, combined with commercialization, that adds value, but that involves development, delight, pricing, and makes it as a whole product. What's the factor in this? As I said, the new idea the invention, not only just the invention, the new ways, this whole innovation is based on the foundation of this new process or the way that you make it, the transformation, intellectual property. Now I gave you 4 terms: innovation, invention, commercialization, and intellectual property. You are in this road, end of this road, innovation, and you want to do commercialization. You want to reach to this. What's the bridge that connects this? You know that innovation involves basic research, translational research, and new ways of translating it by which you can make it as a, you can design and validate to make it as a product. How can you achieve this? How can you go over this bridge and cross this bridge like this? The term is intellectual property. As I said, the property that you develop by means of these new ways which you can put into this. Intellectual property has 4 integral fragments into that. One is the disclosure, where you have to make sure you document your idea. And then whether your idea is valid or not, it's the evaluation step. Next is the protection. If your idea is valid and it is valuable, then you protect it. Once you protect your idea, you partner with someone if it is required to make your idea successful, or else you license, then you license it. These are all some of the steps that are involved in the intellectual property, which is carried out by the Technology Transfer Office at an university. Through this, you can help the innovation reach the point of commercialization. And when you reach this commercialization point, either you can form a spin-off when you are in university, or you can license it to other industries, which I'll be talking later. So now you understand the bridge of innovation and the commercialization. I mentioned that there are some 6 key steps that are required for commercialization when you want to commercialize your research. This is the thing I learned from my experience, and I have put it as a summary here. The first step is the one you do research. You conduct research, and once you conduct the research, by means of the research, you collect data and work towards solution. And during that process, when you finish your data analysis, you find out what is the uniqueness or the novelty that you can identify in your solution. By finding that uniqueness, you can get an intellectual property, the IP. And once you have all these, you need to also know what is the requirement, how you can get your product approved. That's called the regulatory. And you also have to know, it's better to know who would pay for the product, which is the reimbursement step. Once you know about this both, you are ready to commercialize. And as I said, either you can go through this university spin-off or other pathways. So I'm going to explain you step by step how this can be achieved. Let's take the first step, clinical need identification. This is the research problem identification step. So again here, the first thing that you have to do is look for a problem. As a researcher, all researchers are passionate to work on their ideas and problems. Curiosity is the driving factor. Nothing wrong in this, but if the same inquisitiveness or the curiosity can be invested in identifying or solving real-world problems, then there you are to get to a first step of the commercialization or developing a product. So first step, look for a problem. And make sure, the second thing is, if you are in the process of biomedical innovation, you are going to identify a clinical need. However, that clinical need should be an unmet clinical need for which solutions are required. To make sure that you identify a right clinical need, know your end user. The end users, in case of the biomedical innovation is a clinician or a patient or any health professional. Know what they want. Identify a solution accordingly. Make sure when you pick a problem, what is the solution that they are aspiring for? What you have to identify that is going to become a problem for you. So that if I want to have a solution like this, that becomes a problem for you. And also know your stakeholders. Who are your stakeholders? What do they want, and how much they would like to pay for it? And you also have to know whether there is a market for it or not. You can work on a research problem. You can work on it when you're going to develop a product. But when you are going to develop a product, you have to make sure there is a market for it. So whether you will be able to sell the product to someone or not. So this step is the crucial step, which is called the clinical need identification step. Second step is the research step that we all do. Work towards solution. The critical thing that you have to do in this case, list all your ideas. From the end goal, like make sure you vision the product from the initial stages. I am going to work towards this solution. I'm going to get this worked out in a way that it is going to be useful for the end user. Make sure you differentiate between the wants and the needs. Again, a Ferrari is a luxury car. A Ferrari is a luxury car that you would like to have, but you can drive a Corolla also because it helps you to reach the destination, and it's a must to have. So make sure that you can separate, you have this capability of separating this nice to have from want to have, must to have. Make sure there is a market, validate the market. So if I'm going to make this, there is a market available for this particular product. Validate the market. And once you have the solution, what is the uniqueness? What is that you have done differential in a different way from whatever is existing in the market? Make sure you identify that. And again, this is the next step is a crucial step, developing cost. No one likes to pay a humongous cost. So make sure your cost is moderate enough and it should not be too high. It's affordable by every other person. So in a way, it's economical. So now you have gotten your solution. And the third step, this is a crucial step. Make sure you establish novelty. So is it non-obvious for a trained artisan? That's the first question that you have to have in your mind when you want to find uniqueness. Market analysis, that helps you to find the uniqueness. Is there anything that is present in the market similar to what you have? What's the market analysis part? Is people who are using this product, are they going to accept it? Is it in any way similar to whatever that is present in the market again? What's the pool of the people I'm going to target? That's the segment. Make sure you know about those. Remember, you may have 3,000 ideas. Research says that out of those 3,000 ideas, only 4 reach commercial stage. And out of that, only 1.7 make to the market. The final thing that you have to always remember, you are a researcher. You know to do research. But there are this marketing people or business people who will know the niche about finding about the market. Partner with them. Make sure that they can help you to understand this uniqueness and track the market for you. It's not at all, it's okay to partner with someone and to use their expertise in finding the uniqueness and to reach the market. That's how it helps you to find the uniqueness. What is this uniqueness I was talking about? I told you that is the intellectual property. The intellectual can be categorized in 4 different ways. The first one, when you design a symbol or a unique design, it falls under the category of trademarks here. Whereas, if you write a book, that falls into the category of a copyright. And when you make a secret ingredient or a secret sauce, similar to that of a Diet Coke that has, or any drink for that matter, or any supplement, that falls into the category of trade secrets. Whereas when you develop a new technology, when you develop a new active pharmaceutical ingredient or a new technique or a new formulation, it falls into this category of patents. Identify which one does your innovative criteria belong to. What's the new method that you have? Which category does this fall into? If you have identified, you are ready to create an asset. Like when you do this analysis and make sure where it falls into, you have this intellectual property. Now, in this intellectual property, you have identified your uniqueness. And then when you have identified your uniqueness, you have to document it. The documentation step is called the invention disclosure. You submit an invention disclosure. This is where do you do an invention disclosure? MU has a technology office. You go, make sure that you submit it to the technology officer. One of the licensing associate will help you to complete this invention disclosure. And here, when you are going to document your invention disclosure, when you're going to complete your invention disclosure, make sure you explain your research. You are the master of it. You support it with the data and provide new details. You provide details on the new ways or the novelty that you have established. You know the subject. Help the technology officer understand that uniqueness. Once you do that, the technology office will evaluate. And they will evaluate the document in a way or by using your data and establish if your technology or if your formulation has to be patented. Once the evaluation step is completed, they file a patent. And once the patent is approved, here comes the question, who owns the patent? I'm not going to go into these details of who owns the patent, how you can get it. That's a tricky question here. Once you're in academics, in an organization like university owns the right. And if you're in industry owns the right. For now, you can understand this much. And again, about the right of owning this technology depends on the negotiation that you have between the industry that is going to sponsor the research, if it is being sponsored. But remember one thing, according to the Bayh-Dole Act, the intellectual property resulting from the federal funding always resides with the university. So you have a protection, and the protection is for institution from your behalf. So you have protected your technology, you started your research, you conducted your research, got data, you've identified the uniqueness, and then you got the intellectual property. What's the next step? Is that enough? So now you think that there is a product for you, and then you want to make sure that it can be implemented into a market, it can be commercialized. The other two things that you have to know is regulatory, how to get your product approved so that it can be used. The federal agency has to approve your product so that it can be used by the people in order to get it into clinics. Not only that, you also have to understand whether there'll be someone who will pay for the product. In case of US, FDA is the agency that approves the clinical products. So therefore, you need to worry about this regulatory agency when you have to know about the approval process. Regulatory is ever changing, and it is different in each country. And it's vital for you to understand about those regulatory pathways. First of all, you have to understand whether the product that you have made is a drug or a device, or whether it's a nutrient or a supplement, or it's a software or a combination. Each has a different regulatory pathways. And if you can understand what's the pathway first thing is you have to classify where your product belongs to. The second thing is you have to make sure what is the regulatory pathway that is already present in this, and you have to know this is the way I'm going to get it submitted, and I'm going to get it approved. Second thing, for the reimbursement. You also have to understand whether your product is going to be used as a screening technique, or is it a diagnostic technique, or is it a therapy, or is it going to just maintain a quality of life. Reimbursement varies for each one of this. In which thing that does your product fall into? So once you understand these two factors, you're ready, set to go. So here is this researcher who has done all this process, all his homework of doing, understanding the regulatory, understanding up to the reimbursement process. He has the intellectual property, he has a license, and with the license, what he has to do, whether he can directly license it to industry or whether he should start a spin-off. What are the other possible ways? So let me first talk to you about the spin-off. Why spin-off? How spin-off? What is the spin-off of it? And then I'll explain you briefly about this other pathway of going through this industry. Spin-off, often used here right now, and people encourage doing a spin-off, especially university startups and spin-offs. What is a spin-off? Here, in this case, university is the parent body, while the spin-off is the baby that is coming from the university. But however, it's all weaned off from the university, and it's a legal entity that is being separate and acts separately from the university. What does it do? Exploit knowledge. Let's use a soft term like use the knowledge from the academic pursuits and activities. What should be the goal of the spin-off? The goal of the spin-off should be like to generate profit and to commercialize technology. Why should I go through spin-off? Why can't I license it to an industry and be a happy person? What are the advantages? Let's understand that. The advantages of spin-off is spin-offs are variety, but I've listed some here. It serves as a bridge between the academia and the university. You have a constant touch with the university, which serves as an engine for developing new products, new ideas, new research ideas, not only new research ideas, new techniques. That is very, very important. So which is kind of generation of tech transfer patterns. It's a just bunch of it's a place where technology evolves, in my opinion. And not only that, it has a direct socioeconomic impact, like in a way that it helps you to progress the local economy, translate research into the market, into workable technologies. Not only that, it helps the researchers to market their own solution. Create geographical firms, which means that if you are in Missouri right now, if you have a startup, whatever technology that you have developed there is a potential that it can be used in several other places. So it can be extended. It can have several arms. It can be extended it can have an extended arm. That's what you call the great geographical firms. Unique solutions for problems. So in this case, the big pharma company may not work on a unique problem because it may not be profitable. There may be unique stakeholders or unique populations who have unique problems again. And you have an opportunity to work and solve those small pool of population who have these unique problems. And by that way, you get to solve, you get a different status, you get that uniqueness. And also you get a equity when the researcher gets an equity or ownership for the product that he develops. And it also has an inventor involvement, which gives a satisfaction, which is mostly aligned with the researcher goals. The most important thing is it helps to train students in entrepreneurship area. So these are all the advantages of the spin-off, and there may be many which I have left out, but you will get the satisfaction of starting your own company and developing your own product. Here I have listed once you know about this university spin-off, you will be enthusiastically involved in doing the spin-offs. So here I have listed the specific goals, different stages of the spin-offs, and funding that is required at the different stages. Let me go step by step. The first goal is you have to develop a proof of concept. At this stage, it is called the opportunity recognition. What is the opportunity? You know that your product or your technique can be commercialized. What is the funding that is required here? It's a seed money. It's an initial money that you need to develop this proof of concept or to obtain this proof of concept results. So once you know that, you have a new way, new method, new technique, you can file a patent. So you have filed a patent too right now. So you know that someone can license your technology. That is an opportunity framing stage where you find out that your technique, your technology is in a stage that it can be used by any company or a small business firm for further development. At this stage, the funding is called the phase 1 funding stage. Okay, you have crossed 2 barriers here. And the third one is, what should be your goal? Your goal should be to pre-organize. You have to make sure whether you're going to be focused on working only on this problem, or as like a typical researcher, you're going to focus and work on other problems. You have to reorient your goal. You have to make sure that you make sure that you are going to focus on the goals that on the product development, and make sure that you're going to work only on this project and validate to add value for your product. So this is the stage that in which you're going to add credibility for your research problem or for your product that you have been developing so far. So once you add this credibility stage, or when stage funding is called the phase 2 funding. So you have pre-organized, you have set up your mind that I'm going to work only on this problem, and you have added value and you have added credibility to your product, and you have obtained the phase 2 funding also. Okay, you have been successful. The next step is the reorientation of these goals. Whether am I going to hire someone, whether I'm going to be individually working on it, whether I'm going to have a partnership, or what am I going to do at this stage? This is typically referred to as a valley of death. Like many small business fail at this stage, because you have to make sure whether I'll be able to sustain for further product development, to have a long standing, to have a small business firm established for a long term or not. In this stage, you also have to make sure whether I'm going to be the sous chef and the chef also, whether I'm going to have a partnership. So at this stage, this is the sustainability stage. You have to position your product development at that stage. At this stage, the funding you have to request for is a partnership from a big venture capitalist or any other firm. And once, if you have crossed this, when it becomes a long standing, when you get a sustainable returns, then there is a revenue, you have established a successful spin-off. I did talk about the funding, different terms, phase 1, phase 2, partnership and revenue. The seed money, based on the current market situation, we can expect that it can be which can be obtained from an intramural funding or a self-state by means of family and friends, or from state funding. Approximately 100K should be enough as a seed funding. But again, it depends on each project. The phase 1 funding usually is up to 250K. There are several federal aid which can be obtained through small business innovation grants or STTR grants. That's usually given by federal agencies such as NIH, NSF, or you can also approach private investors. The next stage of funding is phase 2 funding, which is up to $1 million, which is again can be applied for through NIH or NSF through the SBIR or STTR grants, or again through private investors too. The next step, the partnership stage, the funding that you might look for is in the range of about 2 to 5 million. You can again approach the federal agencies through a phase 2B funding, through the SBIR or STTR, or through a venture capitalist funding. Once when you have a sustainable small business firm, you should have a revenue of about $5 to $10 million. At that time, your product will be commercialized. I just want to touch upon this federal funding that I had mentioned, phase 1 funding. And I also want to tell you about its advantages. Phase 1 funding is generally given for idea generation. It's always about 6 months time period, or for STTR, it's about a 12 to 18 months time period. The phase 2 is given for a prototype development up to 1 million. It's for a period of about 2 years. And the phase 3 funding is when you partner with someone, and it's a non-SBIR funding, and in some cases, it goes up to, again, 2 years. The advantages of I'm not going to give you about the details of the SBIR, STTR funding, how can you obtain it, because there are several workshops. If you're interested, you can attend to them and then learn more about it. The advantages of seeking a federal funding is that your project is already peer reviewed. There is no equity. There is no one is going to share the equity for the investment they have done. And university partnership is very, very important. You get a university partner because all these federal agencies encourage university partnership. And there's always inventor involvement when you seek for federal funding. I was talking about this private funding, private investors. You can also go for private investors. The only thing that you have to keep in your mind is private investors are always looking for all these important factors. What is the market? Is there a market for them? When will I get a return of investment? Do you have an exit strategy or not for your product? They're okay with tangible risks, but you should have answers for all these questions before it's better to have an answer for all these questions when you approach a private investor. What are all the support you have to think about? You need a good space if you're going to have a university spin-off. Should have legal help. And also you should always look for business opportunities or networking, which is very, very important. Make sure you have an access for all these when you're going to have a startup. See, the other thing, so far I was talking about how to start the spin-off. The other way of licensing your technology to the industry is by means of just licensing it through negotiations with the help of this technology office. Either license it to a big firm or a small firm, big industry or a pharma industry or a small firm. Even in this, there are 2 ways in which you can work with. Just license it to them, license it to the industry, and make sure you get the royalty, enjoy the benefit. This is like watching the kid grow up with all by themselves in a different place and enjoy the benefits of it. And the other way is to get the money and then co-develop it along with that of the royalty. Again, this is also done through sequential negotiations through the help of the technology office. So this is the licensing route to the industry. So to summarize, there is no single path to commercialization. Either you can license it to major company and get royalties, or keep up with this in-house development by means of incubating it and going through a startup pathway. So far, I have explained you about this whole product development, how to do it starting from the discovery to the product. But you also have to know about resources that MU provides. We have a lab. Those are all the resources, the core facilities or the resources that we have at MU. This intramural funding that they provide, that's a seed funding to start your project, develop a proof of concept. And MU has a MIC, the Missouri Innovation Center, and other support that they give for team building and business networking opportunities. The most important thing I want to emphasize today is the teaching or the educational opportunity that we have at MU through this certificate program in which you can learn about the whole process of this biomedical innovation. So what do you have to learn to go through this biomedical innovation? You need to know what is basic research, how you can translate, what is the importance of the regulatory, and how you can commercialize. So you have to know to identify and validate a clinical problem, design, develop, and evaluate that, how to do it in a clinical situation, and then how to do it, how to develop a business plan or strategy. So all these are being taught in this graduate certificate program, which is called this Life Sciences Innovation and Entrepreneurship Program. So if you would like to become an innovator, you have to know all these steps, and all these steps are integrated in the form of the teaching in this graduate certificate program. I just want to briefly touch upon and explain you about this whole program. There are 4 courses, and it's a 12-credit program. The first course is the scientific discovery leading to biomedical innovations. While the second course is all about design and development of biomedical innovations. The third course is commercialization of life sciences innovation, which exclusively focuses, which has an exclusive focus on commercialization of medical products only. And the fourth course is about the regulatory issues in clinical research and clinical trials, how to conduct clinical trials and how to improve your knowledge or educate yourself when you want to validate the product that you are developing. So these are all the course details, how it is offered, where it is offered, and how it is cross-listed, where you can find it, and all these details, and what is the mode of offering, and whether it is offered at a graduate level or undergraduate level, who are all the instructors. This is just a snapshot that I have given you here. And this certificate program, it's an interdisciplinary program. It's offered by School of Medicine, College of Engineering, from the faculty from School of Medicine, College of Engineering, and College of Business. The first course, as I said, the scientific discoveries leading to biomedical innovation, helps you to understand or educates you about, introduces the concept of biomedical innovation, helps you to understand what is an unmet clinical need and how you can identify this unmet clinical need, how you have to find this clinical need through a various screening and filtering process, what are all the life sciences methods and research tools that you need in the process of drug and device development, gives you an introductory for regulatory and reimbursement and intellectual property, helps you understand what is required for commercial research, what's the difference between academics and industry, and when you're going to do research that needs to be commercialized from an academic setting, what are the challenges that you have to face? If there will be a conflict of interest, how you can manage that conflict of interest, and what's the importance of commercialization? What is the perspective if you're going to do it from an industry setting, or what if you're going to do it from an academic setting? And in this first course, we introduce you about this corporate networks, how you can build it, how interdisciplinary teams play a critical role. The end of the course objective for this is a clinical need finding. The second course, which is from the College of Engineering, is all about design and development of a device or a drug. In this case, we make the students work in a way that they identify the appropriate clinical need or right clinical need, help them to not only just identify it, but write a clinical need statement without any ambiguity. And through sequential brainstorming or concept screening process, how they can improve the design process and develop a solution, and virtually develop a prototype. And in this case, we also explain them about, teach them about what should be the design criteria, what should be the design input, design output, how can they validate it, and what are all the manufacturing controls. And we also teach them about this intellectual property, how you can file a patent, what is all is required. We dive in more detailed fashion in the regulatory and explain about the chemistry manufacturing controls that's required for drug development, and also for the devices, what are all the regulatory aspects that you need to know when you are going to devise it, when you're going to design it. Talk about the codes and codes and who are all the payers and what's the reimbursement for your product and how it can be integrated. And we also touch upon this, how you have to make sure that you establish a project management schedule and a business strategy. The end of course objective in this case is the design and development of the device or the drug. The core course is, as I said, it's from the College of Business. It's from the faculty who offers it. It talks about the commercialization process exclusively focused on medical products, the strategic essentials required to commercialize a medical product, how you can position it, what is the market assessment, how you can do it for the medical products, what is the source of capitals, how you can do a technology transfer, what is it it's required, how you can identify in a cost-effective way the contract research organization, how you can write a business plan, and what are all the different business models so far it's prevailing, whether you can create a new business model for your own project or not. The end goal is to help you write a business plan for a startup and help you identify funding strategy for the products. And the fourth course is about the regulatory requirements. What are all the training requirements that you need to conduct clinical research, to perform a clinical research and to conduct clinical trials. What is it, how you have to perform, what are the ethics that are involved in conducting human subject research. A brief touch upon on epidemiology, biostatistics, and also data analysis, which is becoming a big hit right recently. And how to make sure that you know about this patient privacy that you have to know when you're doing a clinical research. So the end goal or the objective is to make sure that you have the skills to conduct clinical trials using your own device or investigative device and drugs. So finally, I would like to summarize again the features of this program is students who are interested in the process of biomedical innovation, clinical translation, drug device development, especially for commercialization, who are interested or jump into startups, they can take this course and they can complete this certificate. And this is just not limited to the students, it's also for biomedical scientists and clinicians who are in academic research setting or working in a biomedical company, who are willing to or want to understand the process of innovation and would like to evaluate their device or drugs through this clinical trials. Finally, I would like to tell you, this is the flyer that is available if you want to know more about this graduate certificate in life sciences, innovation, and entrepreneurship. The contact person is Ms. Debbie Taylor, or you can send me an email directly. And as I said, biomedical innovation is a process where you identify, it has invent and implement. So 3 phases, it's just not a single phase where you can jump into and just immediately commercialize your product. You need a proper time, proper place, proper team to make sure that your product is launched. So if you diligently follow these steps, it's a systematic way of getting your discovery to the product. With that, I would like to thank Dr. Faye, who has been continuously supporting this certificate program, Dr. Parker, who started this program, and all the co-instructors who are again educating the students along with me, and also the funding that has been provided by Mizzou Online to develop this program for online offering. And I also would like to thank Dr. Kennelly for just jumping into, when I just sent an email, she was like, okay, I want you to give this seminar. That's what she said. And I thank her for that. And Dr. Lindbergh, who did not even wait for anything, like she said, do you want to present it as a first seminar? Do you want to kickstart it? That is what the enthusiasm I saw in this department. I thank them, and I also thank you all for your patience and for listening to me today. Thank you. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
Nice. I'll clap for everybody. Thank you so much. That was really wonderful. I see some people had some questions in the chat. If anybody else has any questions, feel free to enter it in the chat, or if you feel comfortable raising your hand, go right ahead. That was really great. For me personally, I have friends colleagues I did my PhD with or postdoc with that have moved to industry, and I can see how this would be really helpful to people, not only graduate students, but then also faculty. So I have a question. Dr. Parks asked, where on the path that you showed do you think provides the biggest challenges for academic scientists? Where is it easy to make mistakes, or where do people get hung up?
Where do people get hung up is problem identification. That's what I see that. They do get stuck in there. I cannot pinpoint and tell that this is what is stuck, but the major challenges is the regulatory. That's what is an issue again. And many people are not sure about their regulatory pathway, or whether their problem that they have identified is the right one or not. So teaming up is very, very important. That's the challenge that they are facing right now, being in an academic situation.
Dr. Parks, did you have anything to add to that? Okay. Oh, thank you. And then Dr. Padilla asked, and I heard the stat too, if 1.7 out of 3,000 ideas make it to market, how do you convince people that this is feasible or productive for a career plan?
Oh, okay. So you never give up, right?
No,
that's my answer. So if you're passionate about your product, if you're confident about your product, I think I will keep persisting and I will try that. How much ever, I wouldn't give up.
So then Dr. Dillon has kind of along those lines, and are there any incentives that the university offers to kind of stay persistent or keep engaging in this path of discovery?
Yes, there are several seed funding that is available, probably, through which they can develop this proof of concept. That's one supportive thing I would say. And also the incubator, they offer free consultation services for people who would like to make sure that if they have any problems in their product development phases, if they want legal help, there is a legal clinic in the law school. That's one way. So there are, I didn't put the resources completely. The main focus is if they want to know more about this intellectual property, or whether they can, whether their product or whether their technique can be patented or not, the technology office can help. That is one way. The incubator can help them to find investors for their research, I should say. Initially, I would call it research. So to develop their product, that is one way. And the legal clinic, again, they help you to identify whether there is any nuances that they would face. And the technology office is another important resource that they can use to find out and evaluate their product, like whether they can get an intellectual property for that, whether they can get a patent for that or not. Does that answer his question?
Dr. Dillon, do you have any other questions? Nope.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I have a question about so the certificate program is 4 courses. Are they all available online? Are they online and self-paced, or what's the format?
Yeah, they are all online and self-paced, but it's all offered in regular semesters. The flyer has all the details, but I gave a snapshot of the face-to-face modules and the online options, how you can take it. So if it's a face-to-face, what we do is you can complete only 3 courses, which are called the core courses, the first 3 courses, and the 4th course is the elective that you complete from your department. This is for the students. Whatever department they are from, the major course or the core course that they have completed from the department will be used as the elective.
Okay. If there's any other questions? I just have a comment. So I actually met a student today who is interested in the program from an industry standpoint. So you can take courses, which I found out once you're, and maybe Dr. Canale's on here. I mean, so once you've once you've completed comps, you've completed your comprehensive and you're done with coursework, it doesn't mean you cannot continue to take a couple courses. And so I know some students who finish their comps and their coursework and then are considering industry, and so thought about doing this more self-paced online type of a certificate after that even. So even if some of the students have finished their coursework and this sounds interesting, as far as I understand it, you can still do this.
Yeah, after you finish comps, you can still take classes.
So,
So you wouldn't want to be taking a full complement of classes because you're not going to get your research done.
but it is something if somebody's interested. Can you take, for these courses, could you take, for example, just the one through School of Medicine, Dr. Upendran, or just the one through business, or do you need to take the whole series of courses?
No, they can register for one course and then complete it. That's not an issue.
Okay.
I have had several students who have taken only one course and completed it. But most of them, what happens is when they register for one course and complete it, they want to do other two courses also. That's what I have seen people doing it.
Is there any phase in the process where you can raise your hopes for successfully making it through market? Dusty Shea asks, is there a point when you get through the process that you're pretty confident that your odds are good and your idea is going to make it to market?
Is it a question to me? Like that question, it depends on your own product, right? Like you have to do your homework properly. Like you have to make sure that you have done your market analysis and make sure that there is a market even existing for that. So once you do that initially, you can be confident that it'll make it it'll make it through and you can be successful in getting a profit for that. And sometimes when we teach students, we do use this word saying that we are, of course, we do charity, but it's not completely a charity thing like when we are going to do commercialization. Please bear that in mind. That's what we tell students.
Oh, that's great. It looks like that's all I did. Dr. Canale, there's one question from Dr. Harden about post-comps, if students have to pay for, so if students are thinking about taking a post-comps, we'll have to look into who has to actually pay for those credits. But so don't get too excited if you want to register before you check with your advisor.
But if it works out that you still have to stay registered in a class every semester while you're there, and if you already have all of your dissertation credits in place and you still have a semester, I think it would be paid for. But when it becomes excessive, that's when the question comes up.
So sounds possible. This was great. Thank you so much. So
Yeah, well done.
There's no other questions. If anybody wants to unmute and thank Dr. Upendran for her time today, that would be great.
Great.
Yeah, I think we can unmute.
Thank you.
I think so, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I really appreciate Dr. Limburg and Dr. Canale. Thanks again. And if anyone is interested, they can email me directly about the program or contact Ms. Debbie Taylor for this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Bye, everyone. We'll see you next week.